Hey guys, it's KJ from the Scariest Movie Ever channel on YouTube, and I have a video here I've been wanting to make for a while. It's been really hard to keep up with though because this story is still developing, and every single day it's getting much more intense. Many of you may feel the same way I do, that in all my years I've never seen this much chaos in so many different ways, and I'm mainly speaking about America in general. But really, if you just look across the world, it just feels like everything's moving faster. There's more and more deception, more and more people are turning on each other. It's getting really ugly out there. It would certainly seem that there is a purge taking place, right? And there is absolutely no doubt in my mind, and I'm sure many of you would agree, that what the system, or what I call the beast system, seems to have in store for us is a civil war. Another American Civil War. And I say that because it's becoming so obvious. The system is trying to turn us all against each other. And not just the races. I mean, they're literally dividing us all into subgroups and then turning us all on each other. We're eating each other alive. Because as long as we're all fighting against each other and divided, we're not going to be keeping our eye on the real enemy, which is that beast system. The controllers at the top of the pyramid, if you will. We can call them the Illuminati. It's basically a culmination of multiple secret societies. All of them have their jobs to do. All of them have their specific missions. All of them have their jobs to do. Meanwhile, us, the people, are being used against each other. They want us to destroy each other so they can continue to complete this new world order, this one world system. All of this stuff that was prophesied in the Bible a long time ago is taking place right now. And if you don't see it, please open your eyes, pay attention, and check out this video. There's some things I need to show you. Secret societies run this world. I've covered this multiple times in other videos. And if all of this is new to you, it's not too late. Please check this out. And after you're done, if you disagree with anything, what's most important right now in these days and times is to do your own research. Look this stuff up for yourself. You need to know the truth of the times we're in. So to better understand how we've got to this place right now, in America specifically, how we're on the verge of what seems to be some kind of a race war, we need to go back in history a little bit because this isn't new. We've been being programmed now for several years for this race war. We've been programmed to hate each other. We've been programmed to turn against each other. And I want to show you over the past few years how they've been imprinting us with this. It's called social engineering. It can also be called, in some respects, predictive programming. But the beauty is it hasn't completely worked just yet. And that's why we see them really turning up the heat right now. So to better understand what's happening right now in America with race relations, and again, how everything seems to be heating up, right? It seems like we're heading towards this civil war. That term itself has been imprinted now on us for so many years. But once again, to kind of better understand that, it's very important that you have an understanding of the Boule. In 1904, the first African-American Greek secret society was formed in Philadelphia by Dr. Henry Menton and 5 of his colleagues. They called it the Boule, and it's actually an acronym for Sigma Pi Phi. And they say it was formed to bring together a select group of educated black men and women. What's even more interesting is it was fashioned after Yale's Skull and Bones. So the Boule historically takes pride in having provided leadership and service to black Americans during the Great Depression and World Wars I and II, and of course the Civil Rights Movement. Now please do your own research on this. There's, as with anything else, there's a lot of factual things that have been recorded about this, and then there's a lot of just hocus pocus out there. So do your own research on this, and I'm just covering it lightly because it definitely plays a big part in what's happening right now. The Boule recruits the top blacks in American society into its ranks, and today they say there are over 5,000 archons, or male Boule members, and their wives. With over 112 chapters, they make up the wealthiest group of black men and women on the planet. And it's also really interesting to note that they call them archons. Archon has another meaning as well. So if you look at Gnosticism, and if you don't know what Gnosticism is, please do a little research on that. We're seeing more and more of that come out. I'm seeing it blended in with Christianity. This is all part of that deception or poisoning the well. But if you look into Gnosticism, an archon of late antiquity is actually referred to several servants of the Demiurge, or the, quote, creator god. So an archon in the Gnosticism of late antiquity referred to several servants of the Demiurge. And what the Demiurge actually means is the, quote, creator god that stood between the human race and a transcendent god that could only be reached through Gnosticism. So in this context, an archon plays the role of the angels and the demons of the Old Testament. Now, I didn't write this. I'm just telling you that this is the definition of archon in relation to Gnosticism. And Gnosticism is an absolute deception. This subject of the Boule is deep, and I've seen a lot of other people do fantastic videos on this, so please look it up if you're interested, and you should be, because again, we're seeing it manifest big time right now, and it's spelled B-O-U-L-E, so please look up the Boule. Again, I'm just kind of covering it, the basics of it right here, because there's a lot of stuff I need to get to and show you. Keep it really basic. The Boule was a very necessary step in the organization of Freemasonry. It allows black people to be, quote, house slaves instead of, quote, field slaves, and in fact to manage the field slaves for the masters. As you're doing your research on the Boule, you'll find a lot of really interesting things that certainly mirror Skull and Bones, and one thing I found time and time again is how they seem to encourage homosexual trysts as initiation practices. Apparently this must be done to join the ranks, at least on the higher levels. And that mirrors a lot of the things I've read and discovered about Skull and Bones throughout the years, like lying in their coffin masturbating and telling everybody their sins, all their sexual sins and things like this. But again, it goes to show you how important it is to be compromised in these situations, and why they take all these secret oaths and all that, and why they're so loyal to one another. It's not so much just a loyalty with Masons and all this on the higher level because they love each other and it's a brotherhood. You also have to factor in that they have been compromised. You know, they have things on each other. They have secrets on each other. The Boule can also be seen as just another arm of secret societies that recruit, indoctrinate, and basically do work for dark forces. Therein, there are perks galore for these people, lots of power, lots of notoriety, all lying in wait for the easily compromised soul. In the Greek system, the Boule was the lower house of parliament, charged with organizing the affairs of the city for the king. Think about that for a moment, because this really is an ancient story, and nothing is new under the sun. Everything is in cycles, right? So basically this is the New World Order actually being the Old World Order, and the elite blacks of the Boule are culling and controlling their own for a slice of that elite white man's pie. So ultimately the Boule is serving the satanic global elite. We're looking at the Rockefellers. We're looking at the Rothschilds. We're looking at what they call the Illuminati bloodlines, right? And as long as these black members conform to the rules, these riches will always be in abundance. But if not, well, then comes trouble. So blackmail, as I said, is definitely a part of this deal. These Masonic secret societies have a pyramid style like all the rest. The lower ranks are kept from knowing what the upper ranks are doing. These are the front. These are the people who will fight you tooth and nail when you're trying to expose what the upper echelons of Freemasonry are doing. Oftentimes they're not fighting you on it because they're trying to cover up or be a gatekeeper. They really just don't know. So keeping in mind that one of the definitions of Boule is the advisor to the king, and ultimately the advisor to the king, which king are we talking about? I believe it's the Rockefeller Foundation. Once again, just a connection to the Illuminati bloodlines, right? And if you were to bring some numerology into all this, which these people love, The Sphinx number is 9, so the riddle of the Sphinx is what walks on 4, 2, then 3. Now that equals 9. 4 symbolizes the ignorant man, or the baby. 2 symbolizes the intellectual, or the young adult. And then 3 symbolizes the spiritual, or the old man with the cane, which means wisdom. So that's your 4, 2, and your 3. The Masonic definition of the 9. It's the natural number of man and the lower worlds, or evil. So looking at the logo, you'll notice under the Sphinx and between the Greek letters there are 2 sets of 3 by 3 squares. The Masonic definition of the number 9 is the natural number of man and the lower worlds, or evil. Looking at the logo, you'll notice under the Sphinx and between the Greek letters there are 2 sets of 3 by 3 squares. Much has been written about this throughout the years, and as I'm saying, I'm just going to cover kind of some of the basics here. Each square represents each of the 4 black fraternities and the 4 black sororities, and the final square belongs to the one that started it all, the Boule. So you'll also notice the Sphinx has his paw covering an urn or a vase, and inside that urn we see a circle within a circle with a dot in the middle. Now this had 2 meanings. First, the circle within a circle is the symbol of the Rockefeller Foundation. And once again, that foundation is subservient to the Rothschilds, the Rhodes Scholars, of which Bill Clinton was a member. It's a secret society as well, and well, you can just call it the Illuminati. Again, all of these groups have different names. Ultimately, it's all the beast system, different bricks in the same pyramid, right? So ultimately, just taking in what I've shown you, just that little bit, we can understand that what the Sphinx is actually doing, by definition, is protecting and guarding. It's being a gatekeeper. It is protecting the interests of the Illuminati bloodlines. And that's just some of the basic stuff I'm going to cover on that. Like I said, guys, you can research all this for yourself. Please do. But just to get to the point, once again, ultimately what this is just another gatekeeper organization. All these people are occultists. Ultimately, they are devil worshippers, or they're worshiping Lucifer. They're helping to usher in the age of Lucifer, the time of the Antichrist. And many of us know that this is coming. It's in the air, right? But the Boule doesn't always stay so hidden. All these things are being revealed. The veil is absolutely lifting, not just on things like this, on all the secrets and mysteries, but even on individuals. The truth is coming out all across the board. I want to show you something here. So for those of you paying attention, you may remember this story. It came out not long ago. There were 3 people in California that were arrested on suspicion of impersonating police officers. They were released later that day. Now at the time they claimed to be the, quote, oldest police force in the world. The Masonic Fraternal Police Department claimed jurisdiction over 33 states. And coincidentally, of course, 33 is the holiest number in the Masonic symbolism. Another thing to keep in mind with the 33, that's the highest level a Boule member can reach. However, with the white Freemasons, or the white secret societies, they can reach the level of 33 and a third. And as for symbolism itself, I think this badge tells it all. It shows the Masonic compass and square, the twin pillars, and the logo of the Order of the Eastern Star, which is at the top there. It's the inverted pentagram. So the chief of this Masonic police order is a man over on the left. His name was David Henry, and he is a high-ranking Freemason. According to the police force's website, yes, they had a website, he is an absolute supreme sovereign Grand Master of the 33rd degree, meaning that he obtained the highest obtainable degree on the Masonic ladder for the Boule. So of course, as mainstream media will do, when this story first broke, they just made fun of these people. They treated them like they were a bunch of lunatics, right? But despite the news portraying these guys as lunatics and kooks, there is some actual power and influence behind this Masonic police force. And of course, you may remember this. There's a couple of the fellas right there. They're alongside L.A. Sergeant James Townsend. And at this point, they were involved in Trayvon Martin, right? So they were urging residents in the city to march in peace for Trayvon Martin. Meanwhile, peace is not at all what these people want. Okay, now I want you to go back in history with me here just a little bit, and you may remember some of this stuff, and it was the overwhelming comparisons between Obama and Lincoln. Now, this is a very powerful tool they used on us, and once again, this goes back to imprinting us with this idea that Obama is basically a reincarnation of Lincoln. And there are a lot of very interesting parallels with the two. So once again, nothing new under the sun, right? Everything plays out in cycles. That's not to say Obama's a Lincoln, not by any stretch of the imagination, but you understand with this kind of imprinting, it gives the average Joe and Jolene this idea that, hey, he's not a bad guy, he's basically another Lincoln, right? This is all part of the imprinting process. So let's look at just a few of these parallels. So Lincoln placed his hand on the Bible for his inauguration, and Obama used the exact same Bible that Lincoln used. Lincoln came from Illinois, and so does Obama. Lincoln served in the Illinois legislature, and so did Obama. Lincoln had very little experience before becoming president, and of course Obama had very little experience before becoming president. Lincoln rode the train from Philadelphia to Washington for his inauguration, and Obama did the same. And that's just a handful of some of the parallels between these two, once again for this mass mind control, this imprinting that was taking place. And it's funny, you know, I've heard this said and I've seen it written. I always thought it was interesting because it seems to be true, but Lincoln is known as a president that freed the slaves, and many people believe that Obama will be the president known for, quote, freeing the gays. So going back again just a little bit in history, you guys might remember this. It's Michael Richards. It's the guy from Seinfeld. Remember there was a big stink whenever he was up on stage and started using the N-word over and over and over again. But once again, we see that this man himself is a Freemason as well. So it makes me wonder, you know, is he just playing his part? Was he a part of this imprinting? Was he a part of getting that word out there, getting this thought out there? The world is a stage after all, is it not? And let's not forget the media's role in all of this, and this is something I cover extensively here on my channel. Oftentimes it has to do with the Illuminati symbolism in movies and TV shows and just all media, really, music videos. And a lot of you cover this subject as well, because it's relevant. You know, many of us started off doing this many years ago, and as time's gone on, we're only proven right, I believe, time and time again by how much this stuff is manifesting in the media. And this right here is from the movie Purge 2. I wanted to show you this as well. Remember, this was a black gentleman, older man in the movie, who was sacrificing himself to a wealthy white family so he could get money for his family. So once again, we have that kind of racist imprinting going on here. But more importantly, this shows you something else. There's another form of imprinting that's been going on here for quite a while. It's not just the racial division that's being promoted by this beast system. It's also class warfare. I've seen this come up time and time again. And of course, we had The Dark Knight Rises. Many of you remember this movie, The Dark Knight Rises, the Batman movie. And what was the whole theme throughout the whole thing? Once again, it was class warfare. There were even scenes in the movie showing the people on the streets breaking into mansions and the like and pulling people out of there and taking all their stuff. I mean, it's all about anarchy and destruction. So once again, we've been imprinted with this whole idea of fighting back against the system and, you know, the 99% to the 1%, right? And all that's really true, but unfortunately the media never shows us that this 1% really is the Illuminati or the Zionist controllers, you know, whatever term you want to put on it, but the people at the top of the pyramid still stay hidden. And of course, one of the ways they're able to stay hidden is through this false left-right paradigm that has been put on us for years and years and years. You're either a Republican or you're a Democrat, right? And there's nothing in the middle. This is the way that the mass majority of people see things. Meanwhile, as you can see, the perception is at the top, but the reality is underneath. These are all the same people, they're all in the same clubs, they're all in the same groups. You can look up the CFR, Council on Foreign Relations is one, the Trilateral Commission is another. I mean, all these people are basically a part of these same groups, same clubs, same cliques. There are power struggles because they want the power for their party, but ultimately they're all serving the same corporations. Now, I've shown you guys this in other videos, but it bears repeating in this one right here. That hand sign there is called the Grand Hailing Sign of Distress. You can find this in Freemason literature. Some people also believe that the gesture represents the shape of the constellation of Orion in mythology. And once again, with symbolism, the language of symbolism, oftentimes they mean multiple things, right? But it's very interesting when you look at this symbol and you see that connection to Freemasonry in the real with a case that came out not long ago. You guys remember this one probably. Remember that symbol goes back to the Michael Brown shooting, and this was the whole thing that started off the Ferguson riots, right? And it swept the nation. You know, all of a sudden everybody's running around with their hands up, don't shoot, hands up, don't shoot, right? Hands up, don't shoot, hands up, don't shoot. And then came all the little lambs, right? The sheep followed right along. Again, more imprinting, just imprinting people with this, right? Imprinting the public with this. This is Pharrell from the most recent Grammys. And of course, he's doing his don't shoot, hands up, right? And then, of course, just one more thing on the purge. Remember this, some purge for kicks. And of course, the main kind of bad guy, at least in this picture, and he was on a lot of the posters as well, is a young black man, right? And for those of you who think that this imprinting really has no effect on anybody, well, this right here was a good example. This story ran really wide, and once again, this is right around the time of the Ferguson riots. But the Louisville Purge, remember that? There were threats that were actually monitored by the police. Now, even if this story is not true, once again, it goes to show you the imprinting they're trying to do. They want to get this out there, right? But there really were, on Twitter at least, threats of violent crime outbreak on a Friday evening that were all based off of the movie The Purge. There were police at the time in Louisville and in Jefferson that said they were well aware of this Louisville Purge, the threats that were being circulated on Twitter, and they were all on the ready for this, apparently. Once again, even if this story wasn't real, even if this is all made up, because God only knows how many of these stories nowadays are real and what's all a false flag and whatever else, right? But even if so, it just goes to show you how they're trying to imprint you with this. And if that's not the case, it goes to show you how easily imprinted some of the people are out there. And speaking of the media and speaking of this kind of imprinting and all this social engineering they do and potential predictive programming depending on how the public perceives all this stuff, remember Machete. There have been two of these movies. They came out, and of course both of them are propagating this idea of racial war. Practically every white person in both these movies is incredibly evil, racist, and hates Mexicans. So they tried this with us, and there for a little while you were hearing more about a group called La Raza, and you can look up La Raza if you like. To me, it was just another example of another socialist or even communist construct, another one of these little fringe groups that's getting a lot of mainstream press pushed out there to get that idea, again, in the mainstream that white people by nature are racist and hate all other races, and they should be killed for this. And I have to add this in there as well. I've covered this subject in a few other videos, but it needs to be said that so not only are they trying to divide us by race, not only are they trying to create a class warfare mentality, but we're also facing this whole battle of the gender, this battle of the sexes, right? This extends into gay versus straight. This also extends into the idea of, what are you really? Are you what you were born, or are you what you just want to be? And as I said, I've covered this subject in other videos. I just want to touch on it lightly. I just want to give you an idea of how much of this chaos is being created right now on every level. It's very important that you think clearly nowadays. Use your logic, your reason, your critical thinking skills, because there's so much coming at us, right? And again, back to the media, and of course we can't talk about the Illuminati anymore without having to mention its power couple, at least the power couple that's out there in the media, that's Jay-Z and Beyonce. Some of you may remember this story, and this is real. You can look this one up yourself, but Jay-Z and Beyonce apparently bankrolled protesters in Baltimore and Ferguson with tens of thousands of dollars in bail money, and this was all from a writer and a social activist that actually worked closely with Jay-Z. He said, I can say I've personally helped facilitate donations they've given to protesters directly, and that they never ask for anything in return, especially publicity. And this is from author Dream Hampton, and he told this to the Daily News originally, and now the story's been out all over the place. And I know some of you may be saying, oh, well, they were just doing a good deed or whatever, and it's just really not much to really look into or whatever. Again, guys, with all these shootings and all these things happening, we're getting them like every week now. It seems like every week there's a new shooting, and over the last year it all seems to be focused more on the racial. I'd say over the last few years, actually, because we've had Trayvon, of course, had Ferguson, just to name a few. Now we have the one out in Charleston. Now, research these things as well. Research all of these guys. I've talked about false flags in the past. Now, I'm not the greatest at kind of breaking these things down on what's real and what's not, but you do need to look into this stuff because there's people out there who are doing great work who really break these things down and show how many of these things are a setup. Many of these are a false flag. I've shown you in some videos myself how pretty much any event that happens nowadays, especially since 9/11, there always seems to be some kind of a federal force in that area, usually mimicking or doing a drill that mirrors the event that's taking place. And you can look that stuff up for yourself as well. Please do. Like I said, I've added that in many of my videos. So keep that in mind when looking into this stuff, okay? The world really is a stage, and there's usually a lot more going on behind the scenes. So let's not forget that not long ago, of course, Kanye and Jay-Z put out this No Church in the Wild. You may remember the video. And what was in the video? That's right. And once again, it was this militarized police force, which is basically all across America now, and it was protesters fighting against them. So isn't it interesting how we see this very same stuff play out in the real? Once again, it's that social engineering. Once again, it's that social engineering. It's that predictive programming. It's that mind control imprinting. And this right here is from Ferguson, just as an example. Let's not forget how the Illuminati works. And again, the Illuminati for me is a catch-all phrase at this point for the beast system, right? They are trying to bring everything together in a one-world system. So let's not forget how they work. It's order out of chaos, right? So they're constantly creating chaos, and then they come in, and then they take away more of your rights, and they eventually will probably federalize the police, which is going to be game over for a lot of people. And of course, now we see that they're trying to get your guns at a really accelerated rate. And just another example of something we've seen played out in the media over the last few years is the movie Django Unchained. You remember this film? Django Unchained was more of that mind control, once again, pushing the idea of the slavery and the slaves and the slave breaking free and killing a bunch of white people. Remember at one point the star of the film, Jamie Foxx, had been on some TV show, maybe it was Saturday Night Live, one of these shows, you can look it up. But he said it was a great job because he got to shoot a lot of white people or kill a lot of white people. You know, ha ha ha, right? Once again, that's that imprinting. So you can see how the system is working on multiple levels. And all of that brings us to the latest shooting that took place in Charleston, South Carolina with the little white racist kid that killed 9 people in a church. You remember this, right? Of course you do. It's news. So this is the new one, okay? But what's really, really freaky about this one is the attack on the Confederate flag. So now what's happening is we have all these protests and all these people coming out, remove the flag, remove the flag. And as for me, I don't have a dog in that fight. I don't care either way. It's a flag, it's whatever. But I just want to show you how all this stuff has led us up to this very moment. And now if you watch the news and read all the stories, you're seeing all across the nation, they're taking the flag down. They're removing the Confederate flag. So now, of course, as you see, really every day there's something new coming out about this Confederate flag. Remove the Confederate flag. This has been the big deal now for a few days. And I actually started this video a few days ago, and I had to slow down because every single day there's new stuff popping up on this, right? It's just getting crazy. Everybody's focused on the flag. Remove the flag. They even took the flag off the General Lee, that old car from the Dukes of Hazzard. That's just one example, but it's all about the flag. And like I said, it's such an emotional issue, and this is what they get us caught up in. It's that false left-right paradigm. They play on your emotions and get you all heated, right? And when you're all heated and when you're thinking with your emotions, you're not thinking clearly. The reason I say that is because no matter what side of the issue you are on with this Confederate flag thing, I don't think it matters because it's the subtext. What they're really showing us here, what's really going on, it just goes to show you how they can demonize something now. You can have one of these attacks, whether it be real or a false flag, whatever it is, all right? You have one of these attacks, and then you have the media going full charge ahead, and they can demonize like these objects. Suddenly it's the Confederate flag is evil, remove it, and that'll stop racism. Everyone's going to get along again, whatever, right? We know that's not the truth. But what concerns me the most about this is they can do this about, say, guns. That'll be next, It's not the person who did it, it's the gun. Remove the guns. And if you think I'm crazy, well, check this out. That's right. We have this sniveling little piece of crap, Karl Rove. If you're not familiar with him, look this guy up. He was one of Bush's boys. But now you got Karl Rove coming out saying, hey, the only way to stop the violence is to repeal the Second Amendment. Once again, guys, all these people are masonically controlled. You know, you can call it whatever you want, but it's the beast system, okay? All these people are in on it together, and they really do want to get your guns. So while everybody's sitting here looking at the flag, it's the flag, get rid of the flag. They're talking about this stuff here too, man. So it'll be the flag today, and tomorrow it's going to be something else, and the next day is something else, and next thing you know, you're going to have this stuff knocking on your front door. And at the same time, now we have the mainstream media coming out and saying, hey, guess what? White Americans are the biggest terror threat in the U.S. Wow, right, guys? Now here's something I've covered throughout the years as well in a few of my different videos, but ultimately this is what they're going to do. They're going to start calling everybody a terrorist, right? And if everyone's labeled a terrorist, well, there's already laws and rules in place where they can basically come and get you. Look up NDAA. They can come and get you, take you away, no trial, no nothing, but hey, you're a terrorist, right? So, guys, this is what we're looking at. Again, while everybody's focused on these emotional issues, get rid of the flag, the flag, get rid of the flag, the flag. They're changing the dialogue of everything, guys. Do you see? Now, this is what's really happening here. This is what we're heading towards. And more importantly, guys, it's the TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership. So all this stuff's coming out right now. All this stuff's being negotiated. It's recently passed, from what I understand, but I think they still have to have several other votes on all this. But regardless, what this is it's consolidating world power into fewer hands. And you should look into this and do a little research for yourself. But ultimately, this is that new world order. This is the same thing I've been talking about for years, and a lot of other people here online. The veil is lifting on this stuff. I can't believe there's still people who don't believe the new world order is real. And as we're seeing it right here, it's truly manifesting. So again, you have all the people running around with these emotional issues. You have all the lies, the deception, all the mind control, all the imprinting taking place. But all the big dogs, the people at the top of the pyramid, right? This is the stuff they're negotiating. This is the stuff they're putting into place. They're fully getting us ready for a true one world order, a one world religion, the age of the Antichrist. And while all this stuff is taking place, all of this madness, at the same time, we have Jade Helm. So isn't it interesting that while all this stuff is taking place and it all seems to be speeding up, at the same time we have Jade Helm, the largest military occupation on American soil ever. Because it's not just Jade Helm. Most of us know that by now. This is the one they've told us about. But there's multiple little things popping up all around America. Other drills, other military drills happening. And we're seeing these videos every single day from people filming this stuff and showing it. So, as you can see, guys, I mean, this is where we're headed, man. All of this is not by accident. All of this is by design, guys. And we're getting very close, I believe, and I feel just getting so close. I mean, just look at all the things that are happening. Look at what I've shown you. Do your own research. But realize that these are the times we're in. This is very serious stuff. A lot of people think we're going to fight it. And I think in a lot of ways we kind of have. It has been an information war in a lot of ways. I mean, a lot of these little things that have popped up could have been a lot worse. But it's cool to see that a lot of people are pulling together and they're not falling for these tricks and this deception. But some are. Some people are falling for this stuff. This is why, guys, to me, this stuff is beyond the physical and we look into the spiritual. And I always say, you know, I'm not a big religious guy. I can't give you a whole lot of scriptures. I'm a very simple man when it comes to my faith. But all these things we're seeing, all these things are happening, lead me to believe that if you have not accepted Jesus Christ as your personal Savior, or if you don't know God at all, please, guys, now is the time to really start looking into this, because all this madness only seems to be growing, okay? It's all coming together, and we really are heading towards that one world system. And all this stuff is prophecy. You know, a lot of us have seen this coming for a long time. I genuinely believe we're living in those days. And the only way, quote, out, I believe, is through the spiritual, to have a real relationship with God, to accept Jesus Christ as your personal Savior, to cling to that, okay? Because, again, the deception is growing, and we need to have clear eyes. And I believe it's through the spiritual that we can really see this stuff for what it is. Anyway, I'm going to step down off my soapbox for now. Guys, hey, thank you very much for checking out the video. Once again, I don't mean to scare you. I mean to hopefully prepare you. So keep your eyes open. Thanks again. Take care, and I'll talk to you real soon.